Your show will go live in 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1.
Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome into the Computer America show. Thank you so much for joining us. And, where to begin? I think the best place to begin would be that we're going to change it a little bit after today's show. But today's guest, Orivet, will unfortunately not be joining us today. I know, that's sad. Wait, actually I have something for this. Wow, actually I don't. Yeah, actually, I don't have something for that. I thought I had the sound effect for that, but I don't. So, yeah, I unfortunately was not able to contact them and get in touch with them. They are from Europe, as apparent by their phone number, and I think they left the office before we could, do the interview. But we'll, of course, reschedule and get everything sorted out at a later date. But in the meantime, we have a ton of computer and technology news stories, so not to worry, we have planned for this eventuality, and we will carry you through the end of your Friday. So I hope all of you are having a great one. And before we get into computer and technology news, a few things to mention, including computeramerica.com. It will have the show notes to any of the articles, any of the videos, anything and everything that we talk about here on the show today. Yeah, anything that we talk about here on the show today, well, don't worry, it will be in the show notes over on our website. Also, be sure to check out the live streaming video because, hey, you can not only listen to Computer America, but you can watch myself, you can follow along with the articles, you can see the videos that we play. Just another way to experience Computer America. And then the last thing is the social media contest, where every single Friday, as in today, we award a lucky listener with the chance to win a great prize from our friends over at Logitech. And in this case is the M720 Triathlon mouse. Triathlon is obviously very important because it lets you control up to 3 different devices with a single mouse. It has a little button, press it 1, 2, 3, and it lets you change from device to device. Very, very cool. Happy to give that away. And we'll be doing so to one lucky listener later on in the program. So, all of that being said, I think we're just going to jump right into computer and technology news because, a lot of stories and a lot around some big companies that you know and probably use. So, here we go, computer and technology news. And for our first story, I believe we're going to do, why don't we start with this one? So, the biggest criticism of the biggest email provider in the world has long been Google and the fact that their, how do you put it mildly? Their services read your emails. Not physically, and there's been zero proof that Google has stored email content of anyone's emails in a place that someone else could read them, or even someone, some other person physically has access to the information contained within it. But part of what makes Google Google is that they scan all the information they can about you, including your emails, and regurgitate onto you ads, very specific targeted ads. So if you're emailing something about how, man, I wish I could go to Disney World, well, guess what? You will soon have banner ads and other ads around your Google services promoting Disney to you and Disney services, things like that. It's a core tenet of what makes Gmail tick, and it's long been, again, one of the things that has made a lot of people wary of using Gmail for privacy concerns. Well, things could be a-changing. This here an article from Bloomberg Technology, Mr. Mark Bergen, and Google will stop reading your emails for Gmail ads. There you have it. We'll see to what extent, but hey, for a lot of people, this is a very good step. So Google is stopping one of the most controversial advertising formats, where ads inside Gmail that scan users' email contents. And the decision didn't come from Google's ad team, but from its cloud unit, which is angling to sign up more corporate customers. I see. And Alphabet Inc.'s Google Cloud sells a package of Office software called G Suite that competes with market leader Microsoft Corp. And paying Gmail users never receive the email scanning ads like a free version of the program, but some business customers were confused by the distinction and its privacy implications, saying that what we're going to do is make it unambiguous. So, all right, good step in the right direction. Here we go. Ads will continue to appear inside the free version of Gmail as promoted messages, but instead of scanning a user's email, the ads will now be targeted with other personal information Google has already pulled from sources such as search and YouTube. Because, hey, fun fact, Google, they build up an online presence of who you are as an individual on your Gmail account. All of this is put together, and it normally is combined with your search results, combined with your browsing history, combined with your YouTube searches, combined with your email, combined with anything that Google has their hand in, is all mixed together into their secret formula. So it seems like they are simply pulling out the ingredient that is scanning emails, saying that, and they say that ads based on scanned email messages drew lawsuits and some of the most strident criticism that the company has faced in its early years, but offered marketers a much more targeted way to reach customers, obviously. And they say that Green's ability to limit ads, Google's lifeblood, shows her growing clout at the company. Since her arrival in 2015, Google has poured investment into its cloud computing and business software tools to catch up to Microsoft and Amazon. And by the way, this is the same company who, in an equally head-scratching and confusing turn of events, turned your Google Chrome into a native ad blocking service, as in Google Chrome has a built-in ad blocker from the get-go. Google, what are you doing? You're confusing all of us out here. So Green announced that changes on Friday in a blog post where she wrote that G Suite has more than 3 million paying companies and more than doubled its user base among larger businesses this past year. And that Google announced that these metrics in January, and Google doesn't share its cloud division sales, but its other revenues, which include those numbers, grew by about 50% to about $3 billion. Plenty of money to go around. So there you have it. This is, the short and sweet of it, once again, is that they're looking to attract more large corporation clientele. And when you are a large corporation, you don't want sensitive roadmaps, information, sensitive, really anything, being leaked to anyone, let alone advertisers and people who may be your competitors or looking to purchase that information. So instead of trying to say, well, you get scanned through this email, but not this email, instead of that, they're kind of hoping that the loss in revenue of the less data points for scanning emails is made up entirely by corporations and businesses paying Google for better services. So a win, and kind of a roundabout way, it was, I'm sure they're going to try to paint it as a, hey, this is a win for privacy advocates everywhere. Obviously, this makes Google look good in the privacy category, but it's more about how do they better make money and how do they better attract a customer base that they really need to grow in. So, hey, you know what? A win's a win. You can't take that away from them. And yeah, there you have it. will, I think most anyone who was scared of using a Gmail account for privacy concerns has already been scared off. This might bring those people back, but I don't know. It's not even damage done. It's not even like, hey, the damage has been done. You already lost a large part of your user base. No, it's not even that. It's Gmail is so popular. It's like the default email service that, hey, it may get a little bit busier because this is such a good move. So again, kind of one of those wait and sees. We'll see what the fallout is, but for privacy advocates, I can't imagine why this would be, a bad thing. There you have it. So, all right, and you know what? Why don't we fill up our day with a little bit of Google? As in, we have a couple stories here about Google, and yeah, let's just plow through these. So, this next one, kind of on the same vein, and privacy advocates, again, should be ecstatic about what this really implies. So, right there you go. So, and this coming from Engadget, Ms. Mariella Moon, and how Google purges private medical records from search, saying that it's meant to prevent sensitive medical information from affecting people's lives. And again, this is obviously confusing because one kind of big distinction that I need to make here is that Google is not the internet. Google is a very powerful search tool. There are competitors such as Bing, if you remember that thing, or DuckDuckGo, or what have you. It's simply a way to catalog, organize, and identify information on the internet. So, stripping it from Google, obviously a big deal, but that doesn't mean that Google has any rights or has any ability to physically remove the information from the internet. If it's out there, and if you're savvy enough, you can still find the information through other means. It's just the most popular tool is being, kind of cut down a little bit. So here we go. With that distinction in mind, they say that very few things qualify for removal from Google search results. And that list just grew by one, saying that the tech titan has apparently begun purging personal medical records from results pages, and that Google didn't make a big announcement about it, but a new line in its removal policies website confirms the new rule. Under the section marked information we may remove, and there's a new entry that says confidential personal medical records of private people. Quite a tongue twister, but very important. Saying that Google might have begun working on the category addition after an unfortunate event in December that exposed the sensitive medical condition of massive number of people. Saying that an Indian pathology lab mistakenly uploaded 43,000 patients' blood tests, including their names and corresponding HIV test results. That's pretty bad. I didn't even hear about that one. But that's certainly a bad one. And they say that Google, doing what Google does best, indexed them all, of course, because it's all automated. And that this new policy could prevent mishaps like that from affecting people's lives, especially if they have a condition they only want close friends and family to know about. I would certainly say so. And, that's kind of how Google works, is that if it's uploaded by the proper person or, someone who is kind of a trusted source, when they type in your name and your name pops up with your test results, depending on what else you do in your life, not everyone owns a website of their own, of their own name. No one has, not everyone has like a social media directed directly at your name, unless you really control what happens when you type in your full name into the Google search bar. This may have been the first or second result that showed up for a lot of these people, where if they were HIV positive or not. Definitely not something you want to happen. Luckily, in the grand scheme of things, 43,000 people, not a lot of people, but still, plenty for Google to up and make this change. So before adding the new category, the search giant would only scrub your info if there's something that would make it easy to steal your information or your identity. And those include social security numbers or photos of signatures, as well as personal financial data and bank accounts. But it eventually started accepting requests to remove revenge porn or nude images on the internet without your consent. And other than those, though, the only way to get the info pooled was to take advantage of the right to be forgotten rule, and that would only work if you're from one of the EU members. Yeah, so if you're in the US, unless it falls under one of those two categories, there was really no recourse. They actually had services pop up. I'm sure they're probably still fairly popular, but they were like reputation fixing services or reputation consulting services, where essentially they would perform search engine optimization on yourself. Instead of your website or your product, they would go in, try to petition to remove any bad information. They would bury you in good information, things like that. That was the only way to really, kind of make it happen. So, I mean, again, this doesn't fix everything that you'd want. Like, you can't tailor Google to show exactly what you want, but this is a pretty good step in, not showing things that really shouldn't be shown. So, personal, private medical information no longer being categorized by Google. Also, again, privacy advocates, it's not in the way they wanted it. It's not it's not for reasons that they wanted, but you can't chalk this up as anything but a win. There you have it. So, how about, let's see, for our next Google story, we have like 2 more left. Google has been rather busy lately. How about we do this one? Not that one, though. All right, how about we do this one? Where Google, they're on track for quantum computing. And quantum computing, that's something that we've covered here on the show before. We actually had IBM on talking about their quantum computer. I believe it was like 16 qubits or something like that. And they were actually letting people run tests. That's right. They were actually letting people run tests on their quantum computer, and from universities. And they let me on. They let me run a test of my own. I have since put quantum computer analyst on my resume, and it has gotten me 0 job offers. But hey, it's kind of a cool thing to have on there. And quantum computers, they hold a lot of promise for the future. So to hear that Google is stepping into the arena, something to definitely take note of. So this is by Matt Reynolds, and this from New Scientist, new publication, saying that Google on track for quantum computer breakthrough by the end of 2017. All right. So they say that Google is leading the pack when it comes to quantum computing, and that the company is testing a 20 qubit processor, its most powerful quantum chip yet, and is on target to have a working 49 qubit chip by the end of the year. Pretty darn good. Again, not the full end game, but great strides. So qubits or quantum bits can be a mixture of 1 or 0 at the same time, making them potentially more powerful than classical bits. So that's right. So quantum bits, instead of being 0 or 1, they can be 0 or 1 and 0 or 1. So it leads to an exponential increase in the computing power, because right now computers are either they're either on or off, 0 or 1. And that leads to, that gives us our iteration of 8-bit, 16-bit, all the way up to, gigabits of speed. But here, when you have a mix, you can, be, just infinitely more powerful, because obviously instead of having 2 different options, you have 4 or, more in the series. You can have just, again, exponentially more computing power. That's the promise, and Google's working on it, saying that if everything goes to plan, the 49-qubit chip will make Google the first to build a quantum computer capable of solving certain problems that are beyond the abilities of ordinary computers. Google set itself this ambitious goal, known as quantum supremacy, in a paper it published last July. So in about a year's time, they're about 6 months from completing it. Pretty good, pretty good. So Alan Ho, an engineer in Google's quantum AI lab, revealed that the company's progress at a quantum computer conference in Munich, Germany. His team is currently working with a 20-qubit system that has 2-qubit fidelity of 99.5%, which is the measure of how error-prone the processor is, with a higher rate equating to fewer errors. Seems high though. You know, honestly, like, because the promise of quantum computers and these qubits is that you can run many, many, many more calculations in a series than you could with a traditional processor. I guess the error rate can be a little bit higher because they can, have redundancy and they can check itself X amount of times. So if even if you check yourself, 4 times instead of, twice, you're going to catch your errors more often, even if you make more of them. I guess is what they're hoping for. But the error rate of, of traditional processors, it's pretty tiny. So it's a little weird to hear how, how error prone these qubits tend to be. But hey, again, it's all developing technology and technology that will get better with time. So they said that for quantum supremacy, Google will need to build a 49-qubit system with 2-qubit fidelity of at least 99.7%, and that the scientist is confident his team will deliver the system by the end of the year. And so far, the company's best public effort was a 9-qubit computer built in 2015. So, and yeah, I mean, it's all really exciting because a quantum computer is not the end of the traditional computer. Instead, it is the beginning of the next tier of cloud computing, of computer modeling, data crunching, data analysis. Think instead of, massive supercomputers that we build around the world every single year. It takes millions upon millions of dollars of hardware to do this. And even for things like artificial intelligence and self-driving cars, things like that, having all of that, having all the number crunching done in a single unit that would be a quantum computer, and having it done much quicker, much more effectively, and, just oodles and oodles and oodles faster, it's not going to be, you're not going to, in 10 years throw out your laptop for a quantum computer. No, they're generally going to stay in, cloud services, in laboratories, in, in other applications that are not, because like a tiny quantum computer really doesn't make sense. One little quantum computer, one personal quantum computer doesn't make sense. They do best when they are all together working towards a singular goal. So a single personal quantum computer working on rendering a single game, it wouldn't be very effective. But for, tracking hurricanes or weather prediction or, climate change and things like that, it does an amazing job. And that's what we're moving to. And we're moving towards it fast. Where the article continues, saying that things have really moved much quicker than I would have expected. And this coming from Simon Devitt at the Riken Center for Emergent Matter Science in Japan, saying that now that Google and other companies involved in quantum computing have mastered much of the fundamental science behind creating high-quality superconducting qubits, the big challenge facing these firms is scaling the systems and reducing their error rates. As I was saying, 99.5, pretty good, but still, very, very high. And he said that it is important not to get carried away with the number of qubits, saying a quantum, and this is a quantum startup, saying it's impossible to really harness the power of the machine in a useful way without error correction. And it's a technique that mitigates the fickle nature of quantum mechanics. And the host says that it will be 2027, so 10 years, before we have error-corrected quantum computers, so useful devices are still some way off. But if Google can be the first to demonstrate quantum supremacy, showing that qubits can really beat regular computers, it will be a major scientific breakthrough. And it's one of those things that right now it's on paper, it's in a laboratory, it's in studies, it's in research and things like that. I guess what he's trying to get at is that quantum supremacy, if he can show that quantum computers are worth investing in, if right now they can beat out some applications for traditional computers in the real world, then maybe more companies, more firms will be willing to do research and develop the technology, maybe get here faster, maybe get it here on a larger scale. And yeah, just see it as a viable technology, because right now it's like a lot of things out there. It's on paper, looks great. In the real world, needs work. So maybe Google trying to do this is their way of saying, hey, it's something that's worth looking into, it's worth investing in, and if you're going to invest in quantum computers, hey, go to Google, invest in Google to make quantum computers. I think it's a pretty lofty goal. So there you have it. And we have one more Google story, I promise. And let's see. Here we go. All right, so this last one, we're going to try to get to it before the break, but Google, well, their multitasking neural network can juggle 8 things at once. Much better than the human brain. So here we go. This by Matt Reynolds, and that deep learning systems tend to be one-trick wonders. They're great at what they've been trained to do, but pretty awful at everything else. I know some people just like that. Thank you. So, I know some people just like that. And now, a new neural network from Google suggests that AI can be taught to multitask after all. And that most deep learning systems are built to solve specific problems, such as recognizing animals in photos of the Serengeti, or translating between images, or identifying cancer, or beating professionals at Go, or whatever it is they're trying to do. Neural networks traditionally have been used to solve a problem. They say though, but if you take, for instance, an image recognition algorithm and then retrain it to do a completely different task, such as speech recognition. There we go. So instead of image recognition, you teach it speech recognition. They're saying that it usually becomes worse at its original job, saying that humans don't have that issue. We naturally use our knowledge of one problem to solve new tasks and don't usually forget how to use a skill that we start to learn another. Thank goodness. And that Google's neural network takes a tiny step in this direction by simultaneously learning to solve a range of different problems without specializing in one area. And that the neural network from Google Brain, one of the search giant's deep learning teams, learned how to perform 8 tasks, including image and speech recognition, translation, and sentence analysis. And that the system, called multimodal, is made up of a central neural network surrounded by subnetworks that specialize in different tasks relating to audio, image, and text. So, yeah, we'll probably have to break here very soon, but just to wrap this up, Google has released the multi-model code as part of its TensorFlow open source project, giving other engineers a chance to experiment with the neural networks and put it to the test. Very cool. And that the network's complexity, however, might make it difficult for researchers to work out the reasons behind its multitasking skills. And nothing has ever gone wrong when we don't understand why computers do things the way they do. Nothing ever. Ignoring everything Hollywood has warned us about. It's a good thing. So, hey, listen, the music means we'll take a break. We'll be right back. More computer and technology news after this.
We are all Brother Wolf. 10 years ago, a group of locals banded together to create positive change. We took animals into our homes, held adoption events at local retailers, and talked to the community about our mission to help build a no-kill Asheville. A decade later, we have achieved so many victories for animals in need. There's been so much progress, yet there's still so much to do. As part of our year-long celebration, we encourage you to become a member of our special Compassionate Circle program. With a monthly donation of $10 or more, you will have behind-the-scenes access to the work we are doing at Brother Wolf. Our goal is to reach 1,000 members because we receive no government funding. Working together, we can help build and sustain no-kill communities. Learn more at compassionatecircle.bwar.org. We are a 501c3 tax-deductible organization.
Welcome back to the Computer America Show. It is 31 minutes past the hour, and actually, let me load up something here in the background. But because it is 31 minutes past the hour, why don't we announce a new winner for our Logitech contest? And for anyone out there not paying attention, this is, of course, a nice little contest that we do with Logitech where we give away a prize to a lucky listener every single week. If you want to learn how to enter, computeramerica.com, we have it right there on the right, or you can head on over to the social media contest, and couldn't be simpler. There's like 11 different ways to win. Check it out. And this week's winner, let's draw them right now. This week's winner is, here we go. And this week's winner is Mr. Dennis Dakowski. Dennis Dakowski. He is subscribed to Computer America on YouTube, born in Brooklyn, New York. So, Dennis of Brooklyn, New York, thank you so much for tuning in, and glad that you could join us. So, yeah, looking forward to sending that out. We'll contact you after the show. And just that simple, Dennis is a winner. And if you want to be next week's winner, or the week after, or the week after, or the week after, well, all you have to do is enter the contest, and one time you should be good to go for quite a while. Check it out, computeramerica.com. And Dennis, thank you for listening. And yeah, next week we'll have a new one. So, let's see, we're done with the Google stuff, and getting back to computer and technology news. How about this one? And this one is, man, I mean, we've talked about robocalls before. How the FCC is trying to crack down on the practice of automated systems making automated phone calls to scam you, to sell you products, to be a general nuisance in your lives. Well, there's a Miami man who is finding out that the FCC means serious business. And here we go. So this from Miami New Times, and somewhere across the mystical Acheron, the river of woe, deep down in the darkest pits of. All right, so obviously they're making a hell reference, but whatever. They say that there's a new Prince of Darkness, a Miami man named Adrian Abramovich, probably. Saying that who is accused of making 96 million illegal telemarketing robocalls in just 3 months. 96 million in 3 months. Obviously, no way whatsoever someone is making 96 million calls in 90 days. 1 million calls a day? Are you kidding me? Not happening. So, they're saying that many to people whose numbers were on the mythical National Do Not Call Registry. And as if this gets worse, they're saying that Abramovich was allegedly spoofing victims' caller ID systems in order to trick people to sign up for timeshares. Ah, yes. Timeshare, the thing from the 90s that no one has ever liked since. So, they're saying that yesterday the Federal Communications Commission said it had proposed a $120 million fine against Abramovich in what the FCC has called one of the largest and most dangerous illegal robocalling campaigns the Commission has ever investigated. And that Abramovich was allegedly even sending calls over emergency phone lines used for medical professionals and hospital call centers, as in tying up crucial information that did not need to be tied up. It gets worse. So, they're saying that according to the complaints sent to the FCC, homeowners have said for years that robocalls have been trying to get them to sign up for fake free trips and vacations, and that the robocalls would tell victims to press 1 to hear more about exclusive vacation deals with the companies such as TripAdvisor, Expedia, Hilton, and Marriott, and then route anyone who fell for the scam to a call center, where the perpetrators would try to hook gullible customers into buying timeshares that had nothing to do with those companies. Sounds pretty deceitful. And that eventually, TripAdvisor got wind of the illegal call campaign and launched its own investigation, which traced the calls back to Abramovich, who ran a company called Marketing Strategy Leaders out of, well, Miami. And they said that, in April, TripAdvisor tipped off the FCC, and that the robocalls also directed the victims to various travel websites, which the FCC alleges were all linked to both Abramovich and the executives at the Mexican resort chain called Sunset World Group, which was where the victims were actually being offered timeshares. So, Mexican timeshares, and it's a pretty neat and straight line directly connecting Abramovich to these, to these timeshares. So they said that in December 2016, the FCC obtained Abramovich's call records from October through the end of the year and found that he was making 1 million robocalls a day. Again, probably not doing that by hand. And on December 13, 2016, Bureau staff subpoena Abramovich call records for a 3-month period, and they said that they made 96,758,223 calls. My goodness, almost 100 million calls in 3 months. And let's see, here are some notes from the customers, including a few who presumably screamed themselves hoarse after pressing 2 to unsubscribe, only to learn the button did nothing. Saying that, actually, you know what? All of them have pretty much said that they're on the do not call list and pretty much don't want to be contacted. So, that's the end of that. But suffice to say, at $120 million, the FCC is very, very serious when it comes to taking down this gentleman and really any and everything that he has to do with timeshares. So, robocalls, it's a serious problem. I mean, really, this is one, I don't want to call it small time. This is obviously one of the bigger, robocalling circles that they've investigated and that they've taken down. So it's obviously not small if it's one of the largest, but it's just some guy. It's just some guy in Miami who's selling for timeshares in Mexico. And, when you think about other operations, this one may have been big, but there are bigger ones out there. And it's a pretty hard thing to track down. So this is not the end of robocalling. It's a pretty big hit, but I think it really emphasizes the size and the scale of these tactics that they use. If you can make 1 million robocalls a day, you're carrying, really, I mean, 1 million robocalls a day, that means in, 300 days time, in just under a year, you can probably hit up every American cell phone at least once. It's scary. It's scary, but hey, the FCC's looking out for you, and they took him down. So $120 million later, we'll see if they pay it or if they, head for one of their timeshares. So let's see. For our next article, do we want to get angry or do we want to be amazed? Let's be amazed a little bit, and then we'll be angry. We'll go, awesome, amazed, angry. That'll be the game plan. So for awesome, we have a new one here, and it's something that's never really seen a lot of glamour. And you think it'd be something of the future to have your internet delivered directly from space, and it's amazing, it's awesome. Well, traditionally, satellite internet has been crap. There's no other way to put it. Satellite internet is crap. And I know they advertise as such, and I know that the people who sign up for it, really, their only option is to pay, $60,000 to have wires run to their home. Pretty implausible. Or to have dish set up on their roof and pay, too much for service that is really too bad. But that may be changing, as there's a new low latency satellite broadband gets approval to serve U.S. residents. And they said that OneWeb's 50 megabytes per second internet with 30 millisecond latency could hit remotest areas by 2019. And again, 50 megabits per second and 30 milliseconds out in the remotest areas. So that's like worst case scenario. That's pretty good. Again, it's not Google Fiber, but it's pretty darn good for satellite internet. And that a company seeking to offer low latency broadband for satellites yesterday received a key approval for the Federal Communications Commission, saying that over a year ago, OneWeb was the first company to seek approval to enter the U.S. market with a system of high-capacity satellites that orbit closer to Earth than any satellite has ever done before. And that the goal of this non-geostationary satellite orbit technology is to provide global high-speed broadband service, and its use case is particularly compelling in remote and hard-to-serve areas. Although the non-geostationary satellite orbit, all that says to me is that, well, you'll have windows. You'll have windows that you'll have internet access, but, better than no internet access. So here we go. Today's satellite ISPs have a latency of 600 milliseconds or more. If you are doing anything other than web browsing or, even streaming video, that 600 milliseconds is total crap. Ruins the whole experience. So they said that, by contrast, OneWeb has about a 30 millisecond input and just a bit higher of typical cable speeds, and the speeds would be about 50 megabits per second. So pretty darn good. Better than I bet most people have, in their wired plans. So OneWeb is planning a global satellite internet access and gave Airbus a contract to build the satellites 2 years ago. And OneWeb says it will start launching production satellites in early 2018 and potentially begin offering internet service the following year. So 2019 is when you can look forward to this. And that the proposed network would have 720. Wow. That's a big number. That's a lot of satellites. So 720 low Earth orbit satellites using the Ka, or 20 to 30 gigahertz, and Ku, or 11 to 14 gigahertz frequencies. And that they said it would be able to provide ubiquitous low latency broadband connectivity across the United States, including some of the most remote areas in places like Alaska, where broadband access has not been possible before. Because, right, think about Alaska, half the size of the United States, population, way below the average population of the United States. No internet company in their right mind would ever think that is a money-making venture. So this could be a solution for Alaska and the like. So let's see, to round this out, OneWeb called yesterday's FCC vote an important milestone and said it will begin services in Alaska as early as 2019. And that OneWeb isn't the only company seeking low Earth satellite broadband network, saying that SpaceX, Elon Musk's rocket company, is searching for similar plans as well. And that the FCC received comments from other satellite operators and questioning some of the aspects of OneWeb's application. And while approving OneWeb's application, the FCC said it imposed conditions, quote, to ensure that the satellite constellation does not cause interference to other users of the same spectrum and will operate in a way that manages the risk of collisions. Doesn't seem very binding. It says, hey, you can do this, but make sure it's not in anyone's way and make sure no one's going to hit it. I mean, like, that seems like another organization's duty, but all right, that's fair. And, they have another quote here, but they say that OneWeb's application was approved unanimously by the commission's 2 Republicans and 1 Democrat, and that the Democratic commissioner, Minin Clybourne, said that low latency satellite services could be a key technology for closing the digital divide that leaves many people without fast and reliable internet access. And it's true. I mean, satellite obviously has a place. There is no one in, Austin, Texas that has Google Fiber that is dropping it for satellite internet. There's no one in any metropolitan town or any place that has a dedicated, broadband landline that would replace it for satellite. But if you are in an area that is underserved or just plain old not served, instead of paying $100,000 to have people run cables out to you, this makes all the sense in the world. Makes a lot of sense. So again, satellites, they have a place. They're not a replacement technology, but they are an augmented technology to what we already offer. So they said that, and it goes into more, but I think we're done with that. And yeah, all in all, that story I would kind of classify under awesome. Because that's awesome that you turn a technology that satellite, there's no 2 ways around it. Satellite sucked. Satellite internet connectivity sucked big time. But now with this, it may not be so bad after all. All right. Now, let's see. All right, now let's go to awesome instead of outrageous. So this next awesome one, this one from LG. And LG has long been on the side of new ways to make display technologies. And mostly they're for commercial applications. So yes, you could probably get one for the home, but they really are meant for, malls, shopping malls or billboards or, events and things like that. Well, check this one out. This is the best one I've seen in a long time, where huge, transparent, flexible OLED display flows like water. And if you're watching the video portion, we have a picture of it here, and you can see what they mean. They have this OLED screen, this 77-inch display set up in kind of a sloping waterfall type apparatus. That's right. Insanely flexible. And that's, this coming from CNET, Mr. David Katzmir. And the LG's latest display is a futuristic take on TV in a massive 77-inch OLED panel that can unroll into a see-through tapestry of awesome. And that's right, it can unroll itself, so it can store itself and then unroll. Just awesome. So LG Display is the purveyor of OLED, and the Korean manufacturer has a crazy new concept display. It's billed as the world's first 77-inch transparent and flexible OLED display technology, and it can look like flowing water over a shelf. But hey, it's a TV. and that it's 77 inches diagonally, but can be rolled up to a radius of just 80 millimeters. So, that's about 6 inches, or a bit smaller than a volleyball. And when they say rolled up, they mean like, like a scroll or something, rolled up. And it's transparent, so they claim that 40% transparency, and judging from the image below, it's basically a window, but with moving images. And yeah, they have an image here. They have a woman superimposed on it. Yeah, it's not bad looking. Obviously, you can see through it. No questions asked. You can definitely see through it. And the images look pretty darn good. Not the best, not, wow, this is the future of TV, but for, ads or other things, you can totally see this working. So they said that LG didn't reveal the price for the display, but as a point of reference, the current 77-inch OLED TVs cost about $15,000. Or if you want the wallpaper, which is the one that you can kind of peel and stick and is more flexible, that will run you about $20,000. This is even more though. This is even more so than the $20,000 one. So think, $25,000, $30,000 for something like this. Saying that in addition to those consumer OLED panels, which are flat, stiff, and opaque, LG Display has shown off a few flexible and or transparent displays in the past, either as concepts or for commercial use. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So obviously at $25,000, $30,000, not something that any consumer is probably going to have in their house anytime soon. But it does show where the technology is going. It does show where the technology is kind of heading towards. And if it's a success, there's no reason to think that this wouldn't come to, more practical consumer applications. So OLED, obviously a lot of praise and a lot of, there's a lot of praise and a lot of, just awesome things said about OLED technology. Mixing that with flexible displays and mixing that with transparent displays, I really do feel that's where the next TV innovation is really going to go. It's been 4K, it's been HDR. The next is, I think, the form factor and what we'd consider a TV to be. So, LG making it happen. All right. Now let's make you guys mad. That's right. Make you guys angry. Because, here we go. They, as in Comcast, well, they sabotaged another network until it shut down. This is crazy. And this is all according to an alleged lawsuit going against Comcast. But a local ISP claims that Comcast sabotaged it into shutting down, as in physically cut its lines in a not accidental way. That's like some next level racketeering. So Comcast, everyone's favorite internet service provider, is embroiled in a lawsuit for allegedly destroying a local business. And by the way, everyone's favorite, I'm sure these two links in the article link to the fact that Comcast has been continuously rated the most hated company in the country for like 3 years running now. It's an ongoing thing. So according to the complaint, as telecom giant encroached on the turf of a small ISP in Texas, Comcast cut the business's cables in the process of setting up its own, which the local internet company claims was no accident, and that the subsequent service interruption caused customers to jump ship to Comcast and ran the local ISP out of business, and its owners are suing for damages. I would certainly hope so. I mean, if nothing else, if you damage something, if you're Comcast and you damage someone else's property, just like anyone else in this country, you should be responsible for fixing it completely. So there you have it. And that the complaint presents a straightforward narrative. In 2013, Comcast tried to buy the local ISP, which refused what it claimed to be an undervalued offer. And in 2015, Comcast decided to expand into the area and employed 2 contracting companies to install the cable. So while Telecom, which is, by the way, the business that got ran out of town, while Telecom alleges that it clearly marked its pipe with spray paint, signifying actively used wires, and above-ground flags, as well as sending a map of its infrastructure to the contractor teams, but the workers cut the small ISP lines anyways. Then, while the telecom owner was trying to get a hold of Comcast, the workers cut 3 more lines. Saying, and they have a quote here saying that, but whether it was intentional, negligent, or grossly negligent, they put telecom out of business and turned Luna's life upside down. So Luna, and that is, by the way, one of the owner of this telecom, Luna is seeking to recover the cost of his business, which he estimates at about $2 million plus damages. When reached for email comments, Comcast stated that we disagree with Telecom's claim and will vigorously defend ourselves. So, yeah, obviously, Comcast has a pretty built-in workaround by hiring contractors. These were not, Comcast employees. They were, again, third-party contractors. They could, Comcast could easily put the blame on them. They could put it on, some kind of mistake or negligence. And let's face it, Comcast, they're no stranger to lawsuits. This is not their first rodeo. And when they say they will defend themselves vigorously, it probably means that they're going to hold this guy's feet to the fire with every legal trick that they can. And odds are, the owner of the small ISP that is no longer in business probably doesn't have as deep of pockets as Comcast does. It's a hard thing to fight that. And yeah, it's probably, in the early stages of years in the making. So Comcast, through their contractors, cut this gentleman's clearly marked and visible, as he called them, lines. And in that service interruption, because obviously it takes time and it takes manpower to replace and fix those lines, the customer said, forget that. I'm not living, a week without internet. And Comcast just installed brand new services. We're going to Comcast. Probably one of the most underhanded ways we've heard of, one of these companies, getting into local ISP's territory. So, all right. And yeah, look, we have like less than a minute left. We really don't have time. We have a couple more articles that we didn't cover, including Russia. The Russian government was asking for Symantec's source code so that it could potentially, obviously, Russia's going to claim it's under some kind of guise of, we want to make sure it's not spyware. We want to make sure this is not bad for, the Russian people and the Russian populace. But
90 seconds.
Obviously, Symantec claims that Russia could use the source code to look for security flaws and security risks that Russia could exploit for computers around the world. So we have things like that, as well as the Fireball malware hit 250 million computers. Microsoft denies it, though. So, yep, lots and lots of stories we can get to. Check them all out, computeramerica.com, and you can find them in the show notes.
60 seconds.
Right there. All right. So, the mean lady means that we are just about out of time. Everyone, tune in next week as we have on the show. Let's pull up the calendar here. Next week, we have companies such as Sweepstakes Today. That's right. Enter for your chance to win millions of dollars in sweepstake contest winners. It's going to be a lot of fun. Dick DiBartolo, Nathan Evans, Mr. Gary K from Tech 50 Plus. All these and more next week. Check us out. And yeah, tune into Computer America, 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern. Have a great one, everyone. Thanks so much.
10 seconds.